Trying to pick up. Testing, 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 testing. الحم- الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم الملك القدوس السلام العزيز الغفار التواب الرحيم الع... الع... المتعال العلي المتكبر. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Um, this is the continuation of the reading from the book حل العقدة في شرح العمدة, which is an explanation of a book called عمدة الفقه, which is an this is the continuation of the reading of the book حل العقدة في شرح العمدة, which is the explanation of عمدة الفقه. Umdatul Fiqh, translated as the fundamentals of fiqh, fundamentals concerning fiqh, fundamentals in fiqh, um, by Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi rahimahullah ta'ala. And this explanation is by the noble scholar Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Abdullahi al-Rajihi, hafidhahullah ta'ala. And um, we have read to the we have been reading until we reached the chapter called Babu al-Mashi al Khuffain, the chapter or section in the book of Tahara, the chapter on Tahara purification, the section about wiping over the Khuffain, wiping over the Khuffain, and the the author is going to mention different types of footwear and the ruling about wiping over them, inshallah. And we already talked about some issues concerning wiping over the Khuffain. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, Ibn Qudam al-Maqdisi, rahimahullah, he says, يجوز المسح على الخفين وما أشبههما من الجوارب الصفيقة التي تثبت في القدمين والجراميق التي تجاوز الكعبين في الطهارة الصغرى. Um, so this says that it's permissible to wipe over the khuffain, which are a type of footwear, and those things that are similar to them, like al-jawaribi as-safiqati, thick types of socks, التي تثبت في القدمين, thick socks which stick to the feet, they don't fall, and so on and so forth, as the Sheikh is going to explain. Wal jaramiq, which is a type of thing that goes over the shoes or socks or so on and so forth. التي تجاوز الكعبين, which goes past the ankle. في الطهارة الصغرى, in the lesser of the two taharas, meaning tahara from the lesser of the two types of hadath. Yani, this is only talking about wiping over your feet, wiping over your socks and other sorts of footwear, when it comes to making wudu, not when it comes to making the ghusl. So the Sheikh, he says, قوله من الجوارب الصفيقة الجوارب مثل الشراب الآن. He said the jawarib, al-jawarib, which is the plural of al-jawrab. The word al-jawarib is the plural of al-jawrab. And the Sheikh, he says, al-jawaribu mithlu al-sharab al-an. Mithlu al-sharabi al-an. It's like the socks, like what we call socks today. He says, وَلَا بُدْ أَن تَكُونَ الْجَوَارِبُ صَفِيقَةً, that the socks have to be صفيقة, a matinatun samika, means they have to be thick. They have to be thick. The Sheikh, he says, فإذا كانت خفية ترى من ورائها البشرة فعند كثير من الفقهاء أنها لا يجزئ المسح عليها. The Sheikh, he says, if this sock is thin, if the sock is thin, and you can see the skin behind it or underneath it. You can see the skin underneath the sock. You can see your skin from, through the sock. If the sock is thin and you can see your skin through it, many of the scholars, many of the fuqaha say you can't. This is not a type of sock that you can wipe over. Then the author, he mentions the statement of the author. The explainer mentions the statement of the author. التي تثبت على القدمين, that stick to the feet. That stick to the feet. He says, أي لا بد أن تكون ثابتة. That the socks they have to stick to the feet. They have to hold on to the feet, at least up to the ankle. ولا تسقط مع المشي. They don't fall off while you walk. While you walk. أي يمكن متابعة المشي عليها. يعني you can walk and they'll stay on while you walk. إذا كانت مخرقة, if they are ripped, لا يجزئ أيضا. He said you also can't. إلا إذا كان شيء يسيرا يغتفر. He said unless it's something slight, some small rips, that don't matter. And he said, then he mentioned ذهب بعض العلماء, some of the scholars have taken the position, كشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية, like Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, إلى أنه ما دام يسمى جوربا, as long as what you have on your foot is called a sock, وبقي عليه الاسم, and it's still called a sock, لو كان مخرقا, even if it's ripped, فإنه يمسح عليه, you can wipe over it. You can wipe over it. And this is the position. This is the position of Shaykh Abdurrahman Nasir al-Sa'di, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, that it doesn't have to be above your ankle. The position of Shaykh Abdurrahman Nasir al-Sa'di is that it doesn't have to be above your ankle, because there's no proof for it. There's no proof for that condition. Likewise, if it's ripped, it doesn't matter. As long as it's still referred to as a sock, it doesn't matter how many, it doesn't matter if it has a rip or a few rips or whatever. As long as it's still called a sock. Right? And likewise, he mentions this is the position of Ibn Taymiyyah. This is the position of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. And he mentioned some action of the Sahaba that they used to wipe over something during the ghazwa called Dhatul Ruqa'. The Shaykh, he says, ala kulli hal, he said, in any event, what's better for the Muslim is that he does he takes the position that's safe with regards to his religion. He says, فَيَنْبَغِي أَنْ يَكُونَ الشَّرَابُ صَفِيقًا. He said it's suitable that the sock should be thick, right? Because I believe Abdurrahman Nasir al-Sa'di, Ahkam, he mentioned that it doesn't matter if the sock is thin or not, as long as it's called a sock, right? As long as it's called a sock, you can wipe over it. He says because many of these conditions, there's no proof for them. No proof that has to be thick, and there's no proof that it has to be above your ankles. There's no proof that it has to be, it can't have any rips in it, and so on and so forth. The Sheikh, he said, Sheikh Abdulaziz Araji, however, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he says that what's correct is that, or he says that it's suitable for the Muslim to do what's safe for his religion, to do what's to be sock, to be thick, and if the sock is thin, then he should put another sock on top of it. He says, وَقَوْلُهُ وَالْجَرَامِيقُ الَّتِي تُجَاوِزُ الْكَعْبَيْنِ. This is a type of footwear that goes over the khuf, or over the socks, And the scholars, they mention the permissibility of wiping over different types of outer footwear like boots and shoes and so on and so forth. The Sheikh, he says, أي وكذلك يجوز المسح على الجراميق التي تجاوز الكعبين. And he says, he says likewise it's permissible to wipe over the jaramiq which comes above the ankle. He says وهي جمع جرموق. The word al-jaramiq is the plural of al-jurmuq. وهو خف صغير, and it's a small khuf. وقيل ما يلبس الخف, what is worn above the khuf. I looked it up. It's something that's worn above the khuf. فإذا كان يغطي الكعبين فيجوز المسح عليه. If it covers the two ankles, it's permissible to wipe over it. Allahu alam. And Allah Ta'ala knows best what this jurmuk is. Allahu Ta'ala a'lam. He says قوله في الطهارة الصغرى, in the lesser of the two types of tahara, meaning wudu, right? He says أي إنما يجوز المسح على الخفين ونحو ما بدلا من غسل الرجلين في الطهارة من الحدث الأصغر فحسب. He says meaning is only permissible to, and things similar to them as a alternative to washing the feet in the tahara min al-hadath al-asghar, in the purification from what we're going to refer to as minor minor impurities, right? In other words, in the wudu, it's only permissible to wipe over the khufs and other things, including socks and boots and so on and so forth, when it comes to wudu only. He says, وَأَمَّا الْجَنَابَةُ فَلَا يَجُوزُ فِيهَا الْمَسْحِ. He says, as for the ghusl, when a person is making a ghusl from what's called al-janaba, relations with the wife, menstruation, wet dreams, the postnatal bleeding, and so on and so forth, when a person needs to make a ghusl, he said it's not permissible to wipe over any khufs or anything like that, to have them wipe over the khufs or anything like that. He says, بل يجب في الغسل نزع الخفين. He says, rather it's obligatory to remove the khuffain, to remove these things from your feet when you want to make a ghusl. وغسل الرجلين مع سائر البدن. And washing, it's only you have to remove these from your feet, and you have to wash your feet as you wash the rest of your body. قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى يوما, the author Ibn Qudama رحمه الله تعالى, he says يوما وليلة, right? He's talking about the period where a person can wash over his feet, the time period. يوما وليلة للمقيم, a day and a night for a person who is in his hometown, right? Al-muqim, a person that's not traveling, a person that's resident. وثلاثا للمقيم وثلاثا للمسافر, and 3 days for the person who is traveling. من الحدث إلى مثله, from one instance of hadath, from one instance of breaking the wudu, to another instance of breaking wudu, from the one hadath to another. Hadath is using the bathroom, either way, passing gas, so on and so forth. لقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the statement of the Messenger of Allah, يمسح المسافر 3 أيام ولياليهن. The traveling person wipes over his feet, wipes for 3 days and nights. والمقيم يوما وليلة, and the resident 1 day and one night. The Sheikh, he says, يوما وليلة للمقيم وثلاثا للمسافر, a day and a night for the resident and 3 days for the traveler. The Sheikh, he says, meaning مدة المسح يوم وليلة للمقيم. The time period for wiping over the feet is a day and a night for the person who is resident, and 3 days and nights for a traveler. وثلاثة أيام بلياليهن أو بلياليها للمسافر. 3 days and nights for the traveler. لحديث علي, because of the hadith of Ali, narrated or mentioned in the Imam Muslim, narrated by Imam Muslim, rahimahullah ta'ala, where Ali radiallahu anhu said, جعل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثلاثة أيام ولياليهن للمسافر ويوم وليلة للمقيم. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam designated 3 days and nights for the traveler and 1 day for the resident. The statement of the author, من الحدث إلى مثله. So we talked about the time frame. 1 day for the resident person, 3 days for the traveler. Okay, so when does that time frame start? Right? That's the next question, or the next issue that's going to be discussed. If we understand that a person who is in his hometown, he's in his home area, he makes wudu he makes a complete wudu. Then he puts on his socks, and this is the norm for people in America. We wear socks. Normally, most people wear socks, right? So you wake up in the morning, and you're gonna pray Fajr. You make wudu. You put on some socks. Barakallahu fikum. So you are a person who can wipe over his socks. You're in your hometown. You can wipe for 1 day and 1 night, 24 hours. When does the wiping start? When does the wiping start? The author, he says, the author, Ibn Qudama, rahimahullah, excuse me, he says, من الحدث إلى مثله, from a hadith to another one like it. The Sheikh, he explains, he says, أي تبدأ مدة المسح من أول حدث بعد اللبس إلى الحدث. That the 24 hour, the time frame of wiping begins from the first time a person breaks his wudu. You make wudu, you put your socks on, you break your wudu. The 24 hours starts from when you broke your wudu the first time, after putting your socks on, after having made wudu, after putting your socks on, after having made wudu. Right? فإذا لبس الخف بعد صلاة الفجر. The Sheikh, he says, if a person wears socks or what have you after Salat al-Fajr, ثم أحدث الساعة العاشرة, then a person breaks his wudu. A person breaks his wudu at 10 o'clock. تكون مدته إلى الساعة العاشرة بعد اليوم التالي. The time frame is going to be until 10 o'clock the following day. He says, وهذا أحد الأقوال في المسألة. This is one of the statements, one of the positions in this issue. This is one of the positions in this issue. And in the footnotes, the Sheikh, he says, this is the position of the majority of the scholars. واختيار شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله تعالى. And this is the position of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. He says the second statement is تبدأ مدة المسح من أول مسح بعد الحدث. The time period to wipe your feet begins first time you wipe over your feet after you have broken your wudu. After you've broken your wudu, doesn't matter what time you break your wudu. Let's go with the example that the Sheikh mentions. Person makes wudu for Salat al-Fajr, puts on socks, breaks wudu at 10 o'clock. Time for Dhuhr comes in at 12, 11 something, whatever time it may be. Let's say 12 just for ease. Wudu, the prayer comes in at 12. A person makes wudu at 12 o'clock, wipes over his socks. The 24-hour period begins then when he wipes over his socks. That's the second position. He said, and this is one of the narrations from Imam Ahmed. The Sheikh, he says, فَمَثَلًا لو لبس الخف, a person makes wudu and puts on the khufs. A person obviously makes wudu, complete wudu, then he puts on the socks. And then he breaks his wudu after Fajr. And then he wipes on his feet for Salatul Dhuhr. He says, based on the first position, so the person breaks his wudu after Fajr, and then he makes wudu and wipes over his socks for Dhuhr. Based on the first position, the 24-hour period would end after Fajr. Based on the second position, the 24-hour period would end at the time of Dhuhr, right? Because the time of Dhuhr is when he wiped over his socks. The Sheikh, he says, وَالْأَقْرَبُ وَهُوَ الْمَذْهَبُ. He said what's more correct is the position of the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. وهو المذهب, that's the position in the madhab of Imam Ahmed. تبدأ مدة المسح من الحدث بعد اللبس. That the time period for wiping over the feet begins. The time period for wiping over the feet begins from the first time a person breaks his wudu. The time period for the wiping, which is 1 day for a resident, 3 days for a traveler. In any event, the time period begins, that 24 hours or 3 days begins when a person first breaks his wudu after making wudu, complete wudu, and putting it on the socks. Right? Because of the statement of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because of the statement of the Messenger of Allah, يمسح المسافر ثلاثة أيام ولياليهن والمقيم يوما وليلة. A person, the traveler wipes, right, over his khufs and socks and so on and so forth. The traveler wipes 3 days and nights, and the resident wipes for 1 day and night. Right? Now, keep in mind it says wipes. وروى عوف بن مالك. عوف بن مالك mentioned أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, or that أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بالمسح على الخفين ثلاثة أيام. That the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم ordered wiping over the khuffain, 3 days and nights for the traveler, and 1 day for the resident. قال أحمد, Imam Ahmed said, هذا أجود حديث في المسح. This is the best hadith in the concerning the issue of wiping. لأنه في غزوة تبوك, آخر غزوة غزاها النبي, because this is in at the time of the Ghazwa of Tabuk, and it was the battle of Tabuk, and it was the last battle of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so this is the last thing that the Prophet did. Also, Shurayh ibn Hani mentioned that he asked Aisha. He asked Aisha radiallahu anha عن المسح على الخفين, about wiping over the khuffain. And of course, يعني socks and other things are included. فقالت, she said, سل عليا فهو أعلم بهذا مني. She said, ask Ali, because he is more knowledgeable than me in this issue. هو كان يسافر مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He used to travel with the Messenger of Allah. فسألت عليا, I asked Ali. Shurayh ibn Hani, he says, فسألت عليا, I asked Ali رضي الله عنه. فقال, he said, Ali said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, للمقيم يوم وليلة وللمسافر 3 أيام ولياليهن. And for the traveler, it's 1 day. For the resident, it's 1 day and 1 night, and for the traveler, it's 3 days and 3 nights. Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, and other scholars, and this is a position I benefited from one of my teachers, Sheikh Abu Abdullah Mahir bin Dhafir Qahtani, hafidhullah ta'ala. He said they take the position that the wiping begins, the second statement of that mentioned here. So the explainer, he says, that was correct is the position of the author, which is when a person first breaks his wudu after wearing the khuffain. However, other scholars included among them are Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, and likewise this is the position that I learned from my particular teacher, and this is also likewise the position of Imam Abdul Aziz bin Baz. They take the wiping begins when a person breaks his wudu and first wipes. When the first wipe, the first time you wipe over your socks after having broken your wudu, you broke your wudu at whatever time, 5 hours later, 10 hours later, whatever the case may be, right? You wipe over your socks. The time begins at the first wiping over of the socks, right? Ibn Uthaymeen, in explaining this, he said, because this issue is an issue of wiping. When you look at the hadith that I mentioned here, it says, يَمْسَحُ الْمُسَافِرُ. يَمْسَحُ الْمُسَافِرُ. And the narration of Auf ibn Malik, that Imam Ahmed said this is the best hadith in this subject, because it was in the Battle of Tabuk, and it's the last battle that Messenger of Allah fought, right? And it is the last action of the Messenger of Allah, that the Prophet ﷺ amara bil mashi al khuffain. The Prophet ordered to wipe over the socks, right? 3 days for the traveler, 1 day for the muqim. Ibn Uthaymeen, he said that the issue is about wiping. So the time period begins with wiping. You wipe for 24 hours. You wipe if you're a resident for 24 hours. You wipe over your socks if you are a traveler for 72 hours, 3 days, right? 3 days and nights. You wipe for that period. He says, so the time frame begins with the first wiping, not with the first time you break your wudu. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man ittaba'a hudahu ila yawm ad-din. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.